Haason Reddick is officially out week 1, but the biggest question is, how long will he officially be out? Hello, everyone, and welcome to Rich Sports Talk. Thank you so much for joining us here. You can stream us on YouTube following Rich Sports Talk, or you can listen to us wherever podcasts are available. SoundCloud, Spotify, all of the podcasting hubs. You can check us out. And if you're joining us after the show, make sure to comment below, give us a like, and give us a subscribe. So a lot going on today and a lot leading into Robert Saleh's press conference today. But the big thing was yesterday, the Jets fans, we got a little bit of a tease, which was when Michael Lombardi said that he believed that Haason Reddick would be showing up in New Jersey today. He'd be showing up at the Jets facility because he said he heard from Reddick's camp they were going to be there on Saturday. So we all waited with bated breath. Saturday has come and has gone, and Haason Reddick has not reported. There is a lot to dive into, including a big injury potentially, and could that mean a former reunion of an ex-Jet? But let's talk about the main event, which has been, unfortunately, the main event for the last month and a half. Haason Reddick and this ongoing saga. But I also want to hear from you. If you're joining us on YouTube right now, you can see in the comments section that there is a poll link on the community page. You can also check out our community page on YouTube for great stuff and polls. And I ask you, when do you expect Haason Reddick to be back? Within the first 4 weeks, 4 to 8 weeks, after week 8, or potentially even holding out the entire season? Make sure you give us your feedback on that. I would love to hear from you all. But with Haason Reddick, there was a lot. So Michael Lombardi also, I thought, had a great soundbite the other day where he talked about how he thought that this holdout was idiotic from Haason Reddick. And even brought up a great example, which was the last full season holdout, which was Le'Veon Bell. And everyone talked about how Le'Veon Bell got his way. He got out of Pittsburgh and got the contract. But Le'Veon Bell has said since that holdout, that was a mistake. Haason Reddick now is in the territory where he is going to be cost a game check this week against the 49ers. But the more intriguing aspect of all of this is how this situation is going. So if you recall in the last episode, I made the following statement. I said, if I was representing Haason Reddick, I would tell him to hold in, where you have players at the facility with their holdouts. Now, again, they're not participating team drills, they're not practicing, but they are in the facility as a show of good faith. We saw that with Brandon Ayuk. We've seen it with the Bengals. We've seen it with every other player, and basically not named Haason Reddick. Well, some interesting nuggets have come out in the last 24 hours, ladies and gentlemen, and that is that Reddick's camp, there is a divide, and there are people in Reddick's camp who have basically said what I've been saying, that he should go to the facility and that they were planning on getting him to the facility on Saturday. However, since that didn't happen, it has also come out that basically people within his camp are now saying that they don't agree with this holdout because, quote, Haason is ready to die on his sword at this point. There's an awful lot to unpack here. Before I get into a lot of this, let me go to Haason Reddick's side. So Haason Reddick is a very interesting player because we know how talented he is. We know he's a great football player. But one thing that is clear to me is I think the Jets were under the assumption, and I think everyone in this camp was under the assumption, that the Jets were using this as a one-year deal. When they made this trade, I said, look, this is a one-year deal. This is a situation where the Jets are bringing him in. They don't mind paying him, and they've said they'll pay him $21 million this year. They'll pay him the money. They'll give him the one-year contract. But like I've said, it's a Band-Aid. Could Haason Reddick be a long-term contract with the Jets? I said it could be a possibility, but here's the thing. The Jets have younger cornerstone pieces that are going to be due contracts in the next 2 years, and I don't think they're going to want to lock up Reddick and take money away from them. You have Sauce Gardner's contract coming down the highway. You have Garrett Wilson. You have Jermaine Johnson. You have Breece Hall. There's a lot of really good young players that the Jets want to extend and give them a contract. So I never saw them getting locked in Haason Reddick. It was what I thought was going to be a guy they could bring in, hopefully ease Will McDonald a little bit into this season, which doesn't happen. And Will McDonald is going to be a main focus of this team. But it was basically a stopgap to hold over until he was ready or until they got an answer on him and they make the decision, okay, we need to invest in another pass rusher. Unfortunately, I think what Haason Reddick has thought of this year is unfortunately looking back at his career, where since 2020, he's played for 3 different teams. He's played for the Cardinals, he's played for the Eagles, and I guess you could say he's technically played for the Jets, although now it's 4 teams, but he's also played in that time as well for the Panthers. So 2020 with the Cardinals, 2021 with the Panthers, 2 years with the Eagles, and now with the Jets. I think he wants a long-term contract. But here's the thing, Haason. No other team traded for you, and no team wants to give you a long-term contract. That is just the situation. The Jets have done everything right. And what I was going back to, and why I feel bad for Rex, is I think he realizes he wants to stay in one place for a while, but unfortunately, this isn't the place for him. But I think the one funny thing about this whole thing is going back is now you wonder how this is going to impact his long-term contract with other teams. But in the short term, with the Jets and with this agency group, it is clear that there is not only a disconnect between the Jets and the player, but there is now a disconnect between the player and the own representation, which again, I think points out that maybe the Jets aren't the LOL Jets, which a lot of people were doing. Oh, how could the Jets mess this up? Oh, how could the Jets screw this up? How could the Jets not have a contract in place? Well, if the player isn't listening to his agents who are telling him what I've been saying for a month now, go into Florham Park, sit in the facility, put more pressure on the Jets. Because unfortunately, here's the problem. Jets players, they don't know you. They haven't seen you since your press conference. The coaches haven't talked to you. They don't know you. They're not going to bat for you at this moment because you're not in the facility. But if you were a great teammate and maybe you're not playing, but who knows? Maybe you're doing what Matthew Judon was doing and working with the younger players. Maybe you're just standing out at practice and showing some pass rush moves to some of these young players out here. And they're saying, look, he's being really good with the young players. He's being a really good teammate. He's being a really good guy. We should get this deal done. But instead, you have someone that has refused to come to the facility, someone that is sitting home, someone that is not coming in. And now you have guys in higher up places starting to look and saying, this holdout's idiotic. Like Mike Lombardi, again, loves to rip the Jets a new one whenever given the opportunity. And even he is saying that this is idiotic. The whole thing for Haason Reddick this year was to play on arguably one of the best defenses in the NFL, maybe the best, get 12 to 15 sacks, hit free agency, and get a Brinks truck worth of cash. But now, Haason, even if, let's play hypothetical, let's say he comes in place for the Jets this year and has 12 sacks. He hits free agency. Will he get a bag of money from someone? Yes. But I'll tell you this isn't helping your case, Haason, for a long-term contract, because you don't think GMs are taking notice of this and saying, if he's not listening to his representation or he's not working with them, can we really trust what the agent's saying? Could this be like an Anthony Barr situation where a team's negotiating with him, thinks they have a deal done, then, oh, no, Haason wasn't listening. There was a miscommunication between us, the agent, and the player, and it's not going to work out. I mean, it is very telling that no one else would trade for Haason Reddick at the time. It's so interesting now, too, where you look at the Jets as a great example. If he played well for the Jets, maybe there's a chance they would have given him a long-term contract. But is it good business for Haason to burn the bridges in New York before he even gets there? Because I can guarantee you, even if this gets worked out, even if Haason has a great season for the Jets, I think this front office and this coaching staff is so fed up with everything that they will not give him a long-term contract, and they will happily let him walk and take that compensation pick back for him. That is what I think is going to happen. But now, Haason, great business practice. You've eliminated one of, I don't know, only 32 teams that will hire you. That could have given you a long-term extension. Is that good? No. And plus, you want more teams in on you so you can drive your price up. This is ridiculous. Now, let's focus on the football side. I still think the Jets have a great defense. I still think the Jets will be more than fine without Haason Reddick. Do I think it is a blow that they don't have Haason Reddick out there? Yes. But do I think that this team still has a very good defensive line where they have really invested on the interior of the defensive line position, where they have talent all over this place, where they have former first-round players like Tack McKinley coming off the edge, who is showing a good burst? Do I still think that this team has an ability to get to the quarterback, even with some undrafted free agencies? Yes. Do I think they'll have to blitz maybe a little bit more? Yes. But here's the other thing. The Jets don't need to be the number one defense in the NFL. If the Jets are a top 6 unit, if they're just really freaking good, not unbelievable like they've been the last 2 seasons, and this offense is average, middle of the road, 15th, 16th in the league, the Jets are going to win 10 to 12 games this year because this defense has survived with absolutely the worst quarterbacking in the NFL for 2 seasons, and now has an offensive line and offensive line depth. But again, I will bring up a little bit of that later. But I'm just amazed that now you look at this saga, and for everyone that was LOL Jets, I can't believe the Jets are screwing this up. I can't believe the Jets have let it get to this point. Well, here's the thing. Reddick's camp now is not happy with their player. There is miscommunication between Reddick and his own people. So for everyone dogging the Jets for fumbling this, it seems like Haason Reddick isn't even on the same page with his own team. So if you're someone that was maybe interested at the end of this year giving Reddick a long-term contract, I'm telling you, it's not looking good. And for Haason Reddick, this was an opportunity for you to get a massive paycheck. You still could if you perform for the Jets, but the longer you hold out, you are not just costing yourself money in the form of game checks and fines this year, but you are taking away from that long-term contract, which was the reason you were brought here. And again, chat, check out the poll. When do you think Haason Reddick will actually show up? Please vote now. Let me know. That is in the community page. I want to get your feedback. The options are: when will he return? Before week 4, weeks 4 through 8, will get traded at the deadline, after week 4, or a full season. Here's my thing now with Reddick too, and I kind of teased it on the last show before I get into some of your questions. I don't think the earliest I see Reddick now is week 4. Even if by some miracle he signs next week, with the way the Jets' schedule is, I don't think they're going to have him come in on 2 short weeks to come in. Is there a chance, let's say, it gets done early next week, that he's there for week 3 against the Patriots? That's a possibility, but I would see it as more of a situational pass rusher. I think they're going to ease him into this situation now. And at this point, I think the Jets have gotten comfortable with their rotation. But I'm just looking at this situation, and I don't think that the Jets are in as bad a situation as I think a lot of people feel they are. I think this was like the cherry on top of this defense. I still think it's a great defense, but this is just something that I see now. The earliest I could see is maybe the Patriots, but I think more realistically, it's going to be week 4. Let's get into the spin max, Dave. Reddick will regret this holdout after he matures. Well, we need the maturity first, spin max, Dave. Jesse, you get the deal done, man. Just pay 1 year. Look, Drones, I think they want to. They've even come out and said they're willing to pay all the bonuses this year. They're going to make this a fully guaranteed contract. It seems like there's a disconnect where this is where I think the big disconnect has come from. I think the Jets, Reddick, and that camp made the deal like, look, we will give you a bump in pay this year. The Jets have also cleared $8 million in cap space with the restructuring. I think the Jets are just saying, look, we'll pay him for 1 year. We will rent him this year. We will date him for this year. We'll have a fun summer fling this year, but we are not getting married to him. And I think the problem is, unfortunately, Reddick in some way or another got into his head wait a minute, they want to give me a long-term contract, which was never the intent. And I really do believe this. If the Jets were told by the Reddick camp that if he wanted just a long-term deal and wouldn't take a bump in a one-year contract, I don't think the Jets would have traded for him. I think that the Jets were under the assumption that it was going to be a one-year deal. They were going to play a 1 year, basically a premium for a great rental. That's what he was. Even the time Trey said, this is a rental. For everyone thinking, oh, he's getting a 3 or 4 year contract, this is a rental for the Jets. It doesn't make sense for the Jets, too, because at the end of the day, could there be a scenario where he's a long-term Jet? Sure. But look what the Jets gave up. A future third-round pick. If he signs in free agency, what do they get back in compensation? Oh, wait, a third-round pick. So they basically flip-flop threes to get a 1 year rental out of Haason Reddick. That's what they did for this. Kev, Haason deserves consequences for being... Well, I know your favorite MTV show now. I said it weeks ago. He's the main interest in getting paid. And I think that's another thing, too, where you're seeing this with Reddick, is this is a guy that wants to get paid. Where you see Sauce, you see guys like Garrett Wilson, they want to win. They're not distractions. And I get where players are coming from. They see their mortality in this league. They want to get paid. They want that financial security. I completely understand it from the player's perspective. However, there are guys that love football, and there are guys that love what football provides. And I think the Jets and this regime have done a really good job of getting guys that love football, that football is everything they want. And they took a risk, a educated risk on a player that they thought really loved football. But I think we have seen through this whole saga, this is a really talented player who might really like football, but I think he's looking for what football presides. Reg does not deserve a new contract. He shows up when he shows up. If he doesn't, he can look forward to an early retirement or the same thing next year. Look, that's the other thing. The Jets hold his rights for the next year as well. I don't see him going anywhere. Look, I almost feel like, and again, someone is people never call me when I'm not doing the show. I'm just a magnet, like, of course, when I'm doing the show. But back to your question. I think the thing is not deserves a contract, but I think it's just a Band-Aid. It's saying, look, we have this cap space. It's not going anywhere. We've opened this up. We traded JFM to open this up. Let's just get it done. Let's just figure it out. Let's just put a Band-Aid on it. And look, this team, if you want to win a Super Bowl, Haason Reddick helps this team get closer to a Super Bowl. That is the reality of it. The Jets are a better football team, and this defense is a better team with him out there. And at this point, you just want to get that Band-Aid up. He doesn't know them, like they don't know him. It's a business, a job. You got to work out the salary before you accept. Jets need to get this deal done. Man, they're both being dumb. Why make a deal for somebody that want to get paid, but you don't want to pay them? I think they wanted to pay him, but it was a 1 year pay jump. It wasn't like a 3 or 4 year contract. Teams now may think Haason wants to get a payday because he's hiding an injury. I mean, Kev, that's an interesting angle, but don't forget the Jets had to do a physical. So, of course, the deal wouldn't have gone through if the physicals weren't good. I don't think he's hiding an injury. I mean, it's an interesting take, but it is interesting, too, because don't forget, too, he's getting fined so much money. He's getting fined a ridiculous amount of money right now. And even if I keep saying, even if he gets the 21 million he wants or 22 this year, it's going to be basically a $16 million contract after all the fines he pays. This is fines with the Players Association that you can't get reimbursed. It's not like it used to be where you can kind of fugazi the fines and say, oh, okay, well, we'll give you this X amount of a bonus, which conveniently covers all the fines you were going to get. But unfortunately, I do think that's a really good angle, Kev. But speaking of injuries, some interesting injury news is that Schweitzer now is on the IR, got hurt. It sounds like in practice. He will be on the 4-week IR, which means Xavier Newman becomes the number one backup. Could the Jets maybe promote someone off the practice squad? Potentially. but I still will pound the table and say the Jets should go out and try to negotiate with Connor McGovern, still a free agent out there, or I would look to add at least a veteran interior offensive lineman. This team, again, this is a team with a short runway. This is a team where they're competing to win a Super Bowl this year. Get as much great depth as you can. Now, maybe they're a little concerned about Connor McGovern's age. I mean, don't forget last year they brought him back basically on a cheap deal. But if he's interested in a reunion, I would look into it, especially if they feel Schweitzer's injury is going to be more than 4 weeks. So again, like I think that could be something to keep an eye on. Will we see a Connor McGovern reunion? I would be all for that. I would love to also hear from what you guys have to say. 13 years, appropriate name. This is the oddest holdout I've ever witnessed. He's holding out more on himself than the Jets. Strange. Yep, this is such a strange holdout too, because again, all the other ones have gotten resolved. I think the Jets have made it clear. And this is why I think that the Reddick camp is also getting frustrated. They're saying, look, we want to get this done for this year. We just need Reddick to show up. And his camp's even saying, show up. Like his camp was saying he was going to be there today. He was going to be in the facility to maybe hammer out a deal. But nope, didn't show up. And from what we're being told, it sounds like his camp is getting pissed at him. And they hate that he's basically quoted saying he will die on the sword he's on basically right now. It's just so mind-numbing where it just feels like, it almost feels like a little kid. It's like no matter what option you give the kid, he's just going to keep saying no. Like the agents are like, okay, like, look, you got to be a big boy. You got to show up. You got to talk to the Jets. You got to go to the facility. Like you're the last holdout. And he's like, no. Like, so let me get this straight. And again, I understand this was a good fundraiser that he did on his own time, but he can make the drive to New Jersey for a fundraiser, but he can't make the drive to Florham Park to negotiate what could potentially be $20-something million this year. Like, what are the priorities right now for Haason Reddick? Like, what are the priorities right now? Because it's kind of funny because, you know, he wants to get paid and he's so desperate to get paid. You're so desperate to get paid, yet you don't want to go talk to the people who are supposed to pay you. Right. Okay. JD thought the grass was green on the other side of the fence. That's why we lost. That's why JD lost tough. Well, Kev, here's the other thing about that. I think the Jets will see the full season, but did you watch the game the other night? Bryce Huff, one tackle. Like the thing with Bryce Huff is he was great in this Jets system. He was unbelievable. But he went to the Eagles to be a more full-time defensive end. And when I'm watching that game, did he play 50% of the snaps last? No, I don't think he did. So again, everyone that's killing the Jets for letting Huff go, did the Jets maybe max out Bryce Huff and get the most they thought they could have gotten out of the player? And here's the other thing. The Jets have two very intriguing undrafted free agents. They have Takk McKinley. Look how they've developed Bryce Huff. Like, now you get a guy like Takk McKinley, who was a first-round pick and has shown he can rush the passer in this league. You don't think that this Jets defensive staff, which got that out of Bryce Huff, can't get a great season out of Takk McKinley, can't get something out of McGregor, can't get something out of Eric Watts? I mean, this is a team that has turned Quincy Williams from someone that was discarded by the Jaguars into an all-pro linebacker. I mean, this is a team that is taking these defensive players and developing. So, like, I look at that situation too, and I know the Huff situation hurts. I'm more pissed about the JFM situation, but I just think, like, you know, everyone's like, Huff, Huff, Huff. And then I'm watching the game last night, and I'm like, all right, like, I'm waiting to see Bryce Huff. I'm waiting to see that number 0 come flying off the edge. Like, I'll tell you this. I felt a lot better watching that Eagles game as a Jet fan than I sure know the Giant fans. And my big thing watching last night, and I'm sorry, guys, I'm just going on a little bit of a tangent. I will reel it back in soon. I was tweeting last night. I'm like, how many things are broken in the Mara household tonight? Because again, we saw on Hard Knocks, he would be disgusted if he went to the Eagles of all teams, and that he's the most popular player by far. And Joe Shane's like, yeah, don't worry, we got this. You think Joe Shane's seat might have some smoke coming out from underneath it today? Just a little bit, because last I checked, let's see. Saquon Barkley had 6 touchdowns with the Giants last year, and he had half of that last night in 3 quarters with the Eagles. Yeah, not great. But anyways, getting back to the point, we need McGovern to back up, have 3 to 4 starting O-linemen, God, take time to gel. Yeah, well, and the other thing too with McGovern is he's worked with AVT. He's worked with this unit a lot. Now, again, you have new people on this unit, but especially on the interior, he's worked with AVT before. I think that is a really important thing. He's worked with Tippmann before. He's worked with Aaron Rodgers before in last season. So I do think that McGovern is a smart pickup, and I would definitely try to bring him back, especially if Schweitzer's going to be out 4 weeks. Now, again, could they maybe try to get through these first few games with Newman, who, again, I think Newman had a really good camp. I saw a lot of growth from the kid. I think they're excited about him. But, I mean, with the Jets' history of the offensive line the last 2 years, my thought is the more the merrier, and you can never have too many offensive linemen. I mean, that's always a possibility as well. John, at this point, it's Haason Harakiri. John, could you explain that a little bit to me just so I'm not misinterpreting that, just so I can get you as well? And we got Dane with the best chair background in the chat. Good to hear from you, Dane. Hopefully you reached out on our poll, which is on the community page. When will Reddick return? All right, place your bets, place your bets, place your bets. Let's see what we have right now. In first place, we have before week 4, so we have some optimism. Weeks 4 through 8, 0. Howell's out for the full season, 0. But then we have a tie for second between will get traded at the deadline and after week 8. Now, Samini had that interesting point, too, where I forget if it was on his podcast, he just put it on Twitter, where he put the thing out there basically saying, could he be a piece in the Devontae Adams trade? Now, here's my thought with that. I could see him being a potential piece at the deadline. Problem is, Raiders don't need pass rush. Raiders, he wouldn't be a fit for the Raiders. Could they maybe use like Haason in a 3-way trade, maybe, if it gets to that point? But again, we are a long way out. And plus, who's going to trade for Haason after all this? That's the other thing. In a few more games, the Eagles will be asked the Jets if they'll take I would take Huff over. I mean, that is a good point, 13 years. But, man, it was a weird game. Like, I would even make the case, too. Like, I didn't think he played well either. But I thought Becton was better as a guard. And the funny thing, too, is, like, Becton, man, like, I'll say this about him being a guard. He cannot be a tackle anymore, because I'm watching the tape last night, and there's some nice plays, some decent pass pickups where he's just, if he gets a one-on-one in his face, he can just anchor and point. But you can tell, like, he's limited. Like, they're not asking him to pull, like, the footwork there. Like, there is no, I don't know if it's from the knee injuries. I don't know if it's the weight, but it doesn't seem like he's got any big mobility in there. Like, thank God they moved him to guard. Do you start I think they're going to move Wilson in the slot. Allen versus Brees. I kind of almost feel like, too, Dane, if you were watching the game last night, again, this is just fresh in my mind, I really like what they did with Saquon, lining him up as a receiver a lot. I kind of get the feeling the Jets are going to use Brees as a receiver a lot more than we're anticipating. I get the feeling like he's going to get 5 to 8 catches a game. Now, maybe it's just out of the backfield. Maybe it's lining up in the slot on the outside. He's one of the more dynamic playmakers. I kind of get this feeling to help elongate the season for him and keep him healthy. They're going to reduce his carries, and that's a big reason why they're carrying 4 backs and why they were really excited about Braylon Allen. Like, I think you're almost going to see a scenario where touches, Brees is going to get more touches, but in terms of carries, I think it's going to be a lot closer than people think. I think Mike Williams is on the outside now. Again, on the pitch clock for the first week, probably the first couple of weeks with the short game turnaround. Um, I'm fascinated to see what they do now. Again, a lot of it's going to come down to where do they line up Corley, where do they line up Brees. I do think Lazard's going to get a lot of reps, but much to the chagrin of a lot of Jet fans. But if I had also guessed too, like I think like in terms of targets for receiver this year, I would go Garrett 1. I actually would go Brees 2. And while many people will probably think Mike Williams is 3, I feel like Tyler Conklin's going to get a lot of catches. Like, don't forget, he has been very productive, especially with terrible quarterback play in the system. And Aaron Rodgers loves tight ends. He's a mobile tight end. I think Ruckard's a decent pass catcher, but it's clear Conklin's the pass catching tight end on this team. I almost think, like, again, buy Tyler Conklin PPR stock. Okay. Sorry, I need to brush up on my Japanese history. So, yeah, I do think it's like a career suicide. I don't think it's career suicide, but it's not helping the long-term outtake. Monday night's performance against the Fool will add clarity to the D-line. If the D-line balls out, Reg will look expendable. If not, Jets might add more to pay the pot. I don't think the defensive line is going to look that bad. Now, again, 49ers have one of the best offensive lines in football. I've been on the record saying this, like, even if the Jets lose to San Francisco, if they go toe-to-toe with the 49ers, it's a one-possession game. I mean, to me, I think the 49ers are one of the – if you were to say who's going to be in the Super Bowl this year, the 49ers are one of the 4 teams you put in that bracket. Like, if they can go toe-to-toe with that talented team on the road, home opener, with Aaron Rodgers really haven't playing football in a full season, and they can go toe-to-toe with that team with a whole new offensive line, a whole new defense, basically, then I would feel a lot confident. I feel very confident about this season. I do. I think the biggest thing I'm going to be able to watch is the rotation. I know Javon Kinlaw going to get a lot at the D tackle position. I'm curious how they're going to flip-flop now. Fatu's out for the beginning of the year. How many reps are we going to see Taylor the third get? Now, again, had the great preseason. Will he get a decent amount of rotation on the interior? And I'm fascinated to see the edge. Like, I feel in pass rushing downs, you're going to see a lot of Michael Clemens early in run situations, but in pure pass rush situations, I think you're going to see a lot of Takk McKinley. I think you'll see a decent helping of Will McDonald. Now, the question is going to be, will you see McGregor get a couple of snaps in there? Will you see Watts get a couple of snaps in there? So I do think that there is a lot in there, but I'm very fascinated to see how this rotation really goes. Hackett needs to mandate Rodgers to not extend Flay's first game, run heavy. Like that's the thing, too. I think this team, and I have said this. What's up, Jacob? Good to have you back. Hit the like button, of course. Thank you, Dano. I really think this is going to be a power football team. I really think you're going to see a lot of heavy sets. I think you're going to see a lot of only 2 receiver formations, which might surprise people after basically going 3 the whole year last year. I think you're going to see this team run the football. Like, I think the San Francisco game, I think it's going to be a low-scoring, ugly game. I think both teams are going to want to control the clock and run the ball. I think it's going to be like a 2017, 23-20 game. Like, I feel like the Jets are going to kind of look a lot more like the 2009, 2010 Jets. Run the football, ground and pound. You have an offensive line that's power heavy now. They seem to want to run the football a lot more. You got Braylon Allen in the backfield. You're carrying 4 running backs. You got Isaiah Davis that can carry the load a bit as well. I think the Jets are going to keep running the football, keep their defense off the field, keep that defense fresh, try to get leads, have good quarterback play. Like, I think the Jets' perfect formula this year is make some big plays early, get a lead, get ahead, play time of possession, run the football in the second half, and really have those pass rushers go. Now, the other thing, too, is like people are worried about the pass rush. How many times have the Jets with this pass rush had a great opportunity for a pass rush? So many times they were playing down from behind. They're playing in a tie game. How many times did the Jets have a 10-point lead or a double-digit lead where they could pin their ears back and go and hunt the quarterback? They've never really had that situation either. So I'm really curious to see how they will look when they are playing with the lead, which is something that we have not really had the experience of, well, in the last 13 years. So, with Reg on the field, who is a more talented team when healthy? When you're talking about, like, are we talking Jets defense versus Eagles defense? I just need a little bit more clarification on that, Jacob. So, that. Do you think 1 sack per quarter is possible? 68 is a lot, but with Reg and Co., it could come in bunches with leads. Yeah, I do think so too. I'm curious because, again, we know the Jets don't want to blitz. They want to get home with the 4. They're going to rotate heavy. I kind of think like it'll be interesting because will guys like Will McDonald and Tack be bigger factors in the 3rd and 4th quarter because they didn't get a ton of early reps? They're faster edge rushers. The tackles are tired. Like, will they be bigger factors in the second half? Where guys like Jermaine and maybe Michael Clemens are wearing down the offensive line early. You bring in their speed guys late. I think Tack McKinley is going to be a very intriguing position, intriguing player for me. I think like he is someone to really keep an eye on because, again, this is someone that's a former first-round pick, has first-round talent. We've seen like the burst he has, and this is someone that, again, is he disappointed Atlanta? Sure. But this is someone that's had a 6-7, had 6 sacks in his rookie year, 7 sacks in his second year. I mean, this is someone like if he gets 5-6 sacks, I mean, that's a big piece of the defense. Like, you don't need him to get 10 sacks, but if he's a good pressure, gets a good pressure rate, I think that's something to definitely keep an eye on. Will McDonald reminds me of the scene from Knocked Up when the guy was doing the dice too much. His version is spin too much, one trick pony to me. We'll have to see. I know the spin move is definitely his go-to move, but you hope he continues to develop a swim. You hope he continues to get off the edge a little bit. But we'll also see too, I don't think there was situations last year, like I was saying, where you have a guy like with his pure pass rush ability, where you're just saying, just go get the quarterback, where you're just going to say, go get him in a situation where the game, again, was really close. They didn't have a big lead. So I'm curious to see, but we'll learn a lot about Will McDonald. The big thing, we'll have clarity. We're either going to, at the end of the season, know like he's a guy that could be a key piece to this team. I don't think he'll be a flat out bust, but maybe he'll be a rotational piece until his contract comes up. I mean, but at the very least, at the end of the season, I do think we will have a lot of clarity. Use a lot of misdirection, offset the defensive aggressiveness. Again, they love to use like the Deebo Samuel, the jet sweep in their offense. I'm curious to see how McCaffrey is going to be. Now they're saying he's got a bit of an Achilles. I don't think he's going to be 100%. But the other thing, too, is like I do think they're going to be creative. But the 49ers are the team, they take a while to gel, too. Like, they're a team that's better in the back half of the season. They kind of remind me a little bit of the Patriots, where the first couple of games, they were, like, still tinkering. And, again, like, now with the NFL, with no one playing guys in the preseason, the first 3-4 weeks of the season are now almost like a weird hybrid preseason where guys are trying to figure it out, trying to get things working. I think you're going to see more simplistic stuff early. They don't want to show everything in the tool bag early. So I do think that there will be a lot of misdirection. We know how much that they love to use motion. Have to score to beat the 49ers. Well, if history shows us that they can score over 20, this defense can keep people in check. So I think if they score over 20, I feel pretty good. But, I do think they got to get over 20. I think the Jets, the magic number this year, I think is 23. If they get 23 points in a game, I think they're going to win a lot of games. Can he move the spin when they're expecting it? That will be key. That's the thing, too, is how slippery he is. Even if you know the spin move's coming, if he's slippery and is able to get under the height pad level, the defense of the tackle, it could still be effective. And look, if he's freshly in the game and the guys are tired, it might be very tough to ball up. I hope the Jets keep right making play with us next year. He doesn't love ball. Right? I think he loves money, but he's still trying to figure that out. Have played together for a while, just offense with the first real game last year. Again, as a count injury, just can't gel enough in one game to beat the Niners. Look, I don't think they'll be fully gelled, but I do think that I do think Rodgers, again, didn't play games last year, but he has a rapport with Wilson. He has a rapport with Hall. I do think there's a rapport there. And I do think that there is still, like, again, he's a veteran quarterback. I think he will be fine. I think he'll look a little rusty early. Now, again, if you're expecting the Jets to come out and score 30 or 40 in this first week, I think you're unfortunately going to be disappointed. And like the 49ers, I kind of think like the best Jets team we're going to see is going to be later in the season when things really start to get rolling. What are the odds Hackett's adjusting game like moving? Well, let's be honest. It's when Aaron Rodgers adjusts, and well, we don't know. I mean, for him to make an adjustment, it takes an eternity. I mean, he didn't realize Brees Hall was a great receiver until week 8 last year. So that to me is a scabby thought, Kev. The big thing I'm curious about in game one is how much we see Malachi Corley. Because I know Corley, I think, is going to be a big factor on the kickoff return early. I don't think Corley's going to get a ton of snaps, a bit raw of a route runner. I think he's going to be a very good receiver, but he's going to take a little time. Like if you're expecting him to come out and drop like 5 catches and 90 yards in week one, I think you're going to be very disappointed. But if you expect him to get maybe 3 catches, move around the formation, maybe line up in the backfield, give the Jets an option of a receiver run or a jet sweep or a reverse, obviously contribute on the kick return game. Like that to me is really something to keep an eye on. And I think that's one thing I'm going to be really fast to see the usage of the receivers, see the usage of Corley, where they're lining up with Garrett Wilson. And obviously this offensive line. I don't worry about Tyron Smith. I think when he is out there, if he's not the best tackle in football, he's certainly one of the best on this earth. I don't worry about him. Do I worry about Simpson maybe gelling a little bit, potentially? Morgan Moses, again, stout professional. I think he'll be fine. AVT, I'm really curious to see how he's going to come out with coming off the Achilles. You know, a part of me was wondering if he'd even be ready for week one at the beginning of camp, but it's good to see that he'll be out there. And look, I think that this is really the first time that you feel really comfortable with this offensive line, that they're going to be able to control the line of scrimmage. Like last year, even like we came in the season, like, is Becton going to start? Is Becton the best option? You know, Dwayne Brown, he's on a milk carton during camp. We haven't seen him, but he's supposedly our starting left tackle. And, you know, it's just all that fun stuff. So look, I do think that the Jets this year have better offensive line and a better offensive line depth, but I do think it's going to be interesting too, because the gelling is a big thing that you guys bring up, and I do think it's important because now guys don't want to play in the preseason. That used to be the gel time. So now week 1, 2, and 3 are kind of the hybrid. Yeah, it's real regular season, but we're still kind of, kind of figuring stuff out. We trade up for him, but it's game one. Look, I think Corley's going to be a bigger impact at the end of the season. I think he's going to be a good receiver. He's, again, a bit raw of a route runner. I think he's going to be a lot of a gadget play. I don't think he's going to be like some of these rookie receivers where they come in and day one, they make that instant impact. I think it's going to be almost a slow burn. But I think by the end of the year, people are going to be very happy that they got him. I don't think 15 week one might be a bit excessive. I think it depends on the game flow. If the Jets are really controlling the line of scrimmage and running the ball, sure. I'm kind of curious too, because I know we talk about Allen being the number 2 back. How much does Davis get involved? How much does he get involved on pass plays? Does he get carries out of the backfield? Is he just in on passing downs? Is he just a pass catching back? Will Izzy get a couple of carries? I doubt Izzy gets carries week 1, but I'm really fascinated to see the workload. Is it going to be like split between the 3 backs with of course, Brees lining up a lot at wide receiver so that you can have Allen and Davis line up in the backfield? I'm really curious to see the back usage, and I think it'll change weekly on the game plan, but I think Monday night will give you kind of a sense of how much they're going to lean on Brees as a main running back, how much they're going to use him as a receiver, and also how much that they're going to put Reddick out there. And sorry, not Reddick, Jesus. I mean, I have Reddick on the brain because this is the Reddick show, of course. Yeah, just because they're rookies, though, I like running backs. I don't want to say it's easier, but in the NFL, it's just like you get the ball and you run. Like there's not as much route concepts. It's not as much going against necessarily great defense. I mean, you see rookie running backs have a great impact. And the big thing with these guys, too, is they got a lot of carries in the preseason, which I think was very good. So I still think that they can make an impact. Now, again, Brees Hall is the main target, the main focus, but I do think they're going to get a lot more runway and a lot more touches than you expect. You have a long game. That's the other thing, Dano. They don't want to wear Brees out. It's a long season. They need him for a long run. That's why I think you're going to see Allen and Davis get a fair chunk of carries. And look, the Jets tried with the veteran running backs last year. For people who are like, why are they going so young? Why are the rookies? They tried it. They got Dalvin Cook last year, and he looked fried. And I mean, I don't know if I'm more amazed that he got another team after the Jets, but now he signed with the Cowboys. Like, do the Cowboys have like the oldest running back room now with Cook and like Ezekiel Elliott? It reminds me almost like I remember like the 2000 Washington. I can't say their name, but I'll say their current name, the Commanders, where everyone was like thrilled because they like what was it? They brought like Dion in and they brought Bruce Smith in at that point, and it was like, yeah, they signed the 1992 All-Pro team, but it's 2000. Like that's what it kind of feels like with the Cowboys running backs. Like, yeah, they have the All-Pro 2016, 17 running backs, but it's 2024. Okay, here's a real question. Who are your 7 that aren't dressed, give or take 1 or 2? Okay. I think this is also going to depend very importantly on how the game plan is. How, if they're going to try to run the football more, I think maybe you see an extra back dressed or maybe an extra tight end dressed. The 2 quarterbacks are obvious. I'm going to go against, because it's week 1 and it's early. I think Izzy isn't dressed, but could be in week 2 and 3 because, again, the short turnaround. Offensive line, it depends on how they shuffle. I was going to say Mitchell wasn't dressing, but now Schweitzer out. Mitchell can play guard. Do you dress Mitchell and only carry Newman as the one interior guy? That's a possibility if they bring up someone from the practice squad to play guard. Then I think Mitchell is a healthy scratch. Defensive line, I think one of the UDFA guys will not dress. If I had to put money on it, probably Watts doesn't dress. Zaire Barnes was another guy, but they just announced he's injured. I'm just trying to go through everyone in my head right now on the 53. Yeah, I think they're only going to carry 5 receivers. So Garrett, Williams, Lazard, Gibson, Corley. Someone was saying Corley might be a healthy scratch. I doubt it, though, because, again, of how much he was used in the kick returns. I think he'll dress. I think Irv Charles dresses because of the special teams, so that means Brownlee's probably out. Tight end, it comes down to, do they carry 2 or 3? I assume 3 because they'll probably have Rucker or Bates be the tight end. Safety probably carrying 4. Corner, I'm just trying to go through everyone because they have to carry Hennessy. I could see them only carrying, I think even Surratt maybe isn't inactive because they carry the 3 linebackers. I mean, with Barnes being injured. I mean, maybe, like I said, one of the UDFA guys, McGregor or Watts, potentially. Leonard Taylor III is fascinating to me. I think he could be a dark horse to get scratched, but I don't think so. The cornerback room, it's going to be interesting. Bernard Converse's health, but maybe even Eccles is a healthy scratch because he's been a healthy scratch because Oliver can contribute on special teams. So that's a good question. Those are a couple of my couple of mine. Who's the starting D in offense? Offense, I think, is pretty pretty set. I mean, the tackles, the tight end. Defense, again, they changed so much. Starting defensive line is probably Solomon Thomas next to Quinn or Kinlaw. I'm interested too that maybe do they play some of the D tackles in running situations at the defensive end position too. Probably Clemens or McKinley. I think Stiggers dresses. I think he does. Again, he was a gunner. To me, he's the next up on the outside corner right now. So I think Stiggers plays absolutely. Yeah, I think Corley's going to play. Yeah, I think he's going to play a few spots. Like someone was saying, like he might be a healthy scratch. I doubt that. I think he's going to be active. When they had plans for him, I think they're going to use him creatively. I think it's going to be like a mini Debo. And what I mean by that, they're going to use him to carry the ball. Like I would say Corley probably gets at least 2 or 3 touches a game, whether it's design run or has the opportunity to run with the football. They don't do it as much with Hackett's system like they did previously, but I do think you're going to see a lot of hybrid running situations with Corley. So, again, I do think you're going to see Corley. That's what I'm saying. Corley is going to get the key record is touches, not necessarily catches. It's touches. And what I mean by that is I think you could see scenarios where he only gets 8-10 touches a game, but maybe 5 of them are carries and 5 are catches. So that to me is kind of the situation where you have to look at it and go, okay, I could see him getting a lot of touches. Once again, touches being the key word. And I think, again, the Jets want to be the 49ers. 49ers use their receivers in the run game. And I think he's going to play into that role very specifically. But there will be a lot. Of course, we will be live after the game Monday night to give our thoughts and breakdown of the first game of the season. Of course, it's been an exciting week in the NFL with the first 2 games already in the book. But I do think it's going to be a great game on Monday night. Like I was saying, if the Jets don't win, if the Jets go punch for punch with the 49ers, I think you will feel that this is a team that can legitimately compete for a Super Bowl. I think that this is a team that even without Haason Reddick is still a very good team. I think you want Reddick on this team because he's still a game wrecker. But my biggest comments on Reddick is this. I don't think this is a good look for him. I don't think this is good for his long-term future. And for people that are LOL Jetsing about this situation, you're now seeing it come out that even Reddick's camp is saying they think this holdout has been stupid. They think that they have not handled it well. And now they don't think Reddick's handled it well because they told Michael Lombardi he was going to be there on Saturday. And I think the Jets would have said, you know what? Come in, we'll figure this out. But again, he hasn't showed up. And when you have people that strongly dislike the Jets, now kind of looking saying, yeah, the Jets are handling this right way and Reddick's not handling well. Now you're kind of seeing with Reddick, maybe you need to show a team some good faith because let's face it, you're one of the most talented players in the NFL, but the Cardinals moved off of you. The Panthers moved off of you. The Eagles have moved off of you. And likely at the end of this year, even if a contract gets fixed, likely the Jets are going to move off of you at the end of the season. So for your 5th team, you might want to try to show your future home, you're still a great player by playing on the field, but that you can show good faith to an organization and that you will come and negotiate. Because the Jets have constantly said, come into the facility. And like I have said, if you want to put pressure on the Jets and make the Jets look bad in this, you show up at the facility. You are there. You hold in. You don't participate, but you hold in. You stay there and you put pressure on because that was the Jets' biggest defense. Well, we can't negotiate with someone that isn't here. Well, if Reddick was there and the contract still was done, we would be saying something different. That we'd be on the Jets. Like, how can they not figure this out? The guy's in the building. He's ready to go. He's talking with teammates. He's working in the defensive rooms. He's coaching on the sideline. He's being a good teammate. Like, we'd be saying, what's wrong with the Jets for not getting this done? But right now, it's all on Reddick. And now when Reddick's camp said he was going to be there today, that they were going to be there. Like Michael Lombardi would not put that out there because, again, these people, when they have sources and they put stuff out there, they don't want to look wrong. And when they get this information and people give them these nuggets and then go back on that, it's not a good look. Like, you don't think not that I don't think he's personally upset, but you don't think Lombardi's sitting there like, I told the world what you told me to. You gave me this information because we know you wanted it out there, but now it's kind of backfired on the Red camp because Reddick's not there, and now you're hearing from that camp, yeah, this holdout isn't good, partially because we've lost millions of dollars. We're now losing a game check. And the thing too is, like, even if if Reddick gets like a 23, 24, $25 million contract for 1 year, he still will have lost so much money just from all the fines and the holdout. Thank you so much for joining us here on Rich Sports Talk, your home for the latest and greatest on the New York Jets. For all the latest Jets content, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you don't miss any of our latest content. If you're joining us on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe. Look at our community page for our poll. When do you think Haason Reddick will join? But if you want to listen to us on the go, you can do that as well, guys. We are on every podcasting forum. If there is a link to a podcast, you can find us. It can be on SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, anywhere and everywhere podcasts are available. You can take Rich Sports Talk and you can carry us around all day long in the car, anytime. We are there for you. But until next time, I'm your host, Nolan Rich, and this is Rich Sports Talk.